calm. You're probably going to learn more from this dummy than this dummy. Jennings bows put a real face on bow hunting. When you look like Tom, or like this gentleman on the front here, it was summed up. This is not a game. When you're going to go kill an animal, I'm not going to put no sugar in. You're going to go kill an animal. You're going to go take a life. It's not shooting a styrofoam target. It's not shooting a piece of paper. You're actually going to harvest something, harvest it or kill it. Either way you want to look at it. Something's going to die. Okay. We got our bows tuned. We went to the pro shop and we've had somebody tune it. Now we've got to tune our hunting gear. When you're going to go out and hunt, you start in layers. You start with polypropylene on the inside. That's your base layer. That's going to wick the moisture away. What happens if you put cotton on as your base layer? It's going to absorb the moisture. It's going to hold it. And when you get cold, you walk to your tree stand, you're going to be all right. But if you got cotton underwear on, that's just going to stay wet, and your body temperature is going to go down. So try to get a polypropylene. Today, the hot setup is a lot of scent control. How many people use scent lock clothing or something in that order? Okay. How did you find that? I mean, do you find it works? Is it 100%?
Well, I can't smell myself.
Huh?
I can't smell myself through it.
You can't? Okay.
As far as keeping the scent down,
Yeah.
well, you'd have to ask the deer that. No.
You what?
You'd have to ask the deer.
Okay, but okay. Have you noticed more deer sightings with it on or less?
I've never hunted without it, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Rodney? What's your opinion on scent lock clothing?
Anything will help. I don't think it's 100%.
Okay.
Nothing is.
All right. Well, Joshua.
It works if you don't have a high wind. You got a real low wind, it's calm, it works pretty good. As soon as the wind starts blowing, it's kind of like you're wasting your money.
Okay.
It doesn't keep it in there.
Okay. Anybody else scent lock clothing?
I think it matters on what you do before you put it on.
There you go. Okay. You start with the base layer, you start with the basics. You take your shower, you use your deodorant. You try to be as clean as you can. If you want a little insurance, you want to buy the scent lock, nothing's 100%. Some days you're going to be upwind of that animal, and that deer's not going to bother you. The next day you can be downwind of the animal, and the deer snore. But it's it's really like Joshua said. Sometimes you don't know how the wind's swirling, and it's not a sure thing. So if you guys think you're going to get something for sure by spending that kind of money, I'm going to tell you right now, it'll work sometimes, sometimes it don't. So it's up to the individual. The main thing is like Robert said, cleanliness is the best thing. Get yourself as clean as you can prior to the hunt. Especially on the white-tailed deer. White-tailed deer, I've done a lot of dirty hunting with hygiene. I stayed in the antelope line last year for 92 hours straight. And I didn't get out of the antelope line other than to dump my poop bag out. And that took about 10 minutes at 8:30 at night. And then I was back in the line. Ate, slept, 92 hours. Documented the whole thing. Now, the thing I found out was the best thing about it was those little body wipes. You could actually wash your backside down and your arms and all that and try to stay fresh. But, you're still dirty. I mean, 92 hours in 100-degree heat, and you're going to get the smell in a little bit. But that was an experiment to see what could happen. I killed an antelope. I should have killed an antelope the first day, but 92 hours later. And that's what always ought to be challenging yourself. It shouldn't just be a freebie thing. Okay, scent lock, optional. The next thing that you should wear is on your outside is wool clothing. Now, a lot of guys say, I don't like wool. Some people are allergic with it. Wool is over the ages, has proved itself with all the synthetics and all the stuff. Wool is still the #1 gun. And if you find yourself out there, some of the sleeping Indian, and I have King of the Mountain thing, drawback about that's awful heavy. You got about 3 sets of wool the way they weave that, so it makes it really heavy on your body. But it also keeps you as warm as you're going to can be for the conditions. I was so cold last year in that 92 hour stint, got down to 32 degrees or 28 degrees, went from 120 to 28. You know what a thermocell is? Anybody know what a thermocell is? I was using that as a body warmer. I mean, man, I struck that thing up. Forget about the mosquitoes; they were dead, and I was short to be coming then too for hypothermia. And I got that thing running, man. I warmed myself up with that bug killer. But no, wool is the number one insulating factor out there. I mean, it has a chemical component to it. When wool gets wet, wet hay, when you put wet hay in a barn, if you put wet hay in a barn, you're probably going to have a burnt down barn because it starts doing what it starts building heat. Same way with wool. It doesn't build the heat that much, but it does have a characteristic of building some kind of warmth. Okay. With that, you got your wool. You notice this camouflage, I'm going to tell you a little history on this camouflage pattern. You know what they call this camouflage pattern? Anybody know what that camouflage pattern was called?
Tree bark.
Tree bark? Yeah, it's called tree bark. Do you realize what you're looking at right there? That camouflage pattern was the first bow hunter, exclusively bow hunter camouflage pattern. Not mossy oak, not Bill Jordan's, whatever, the real tree and all that. Jim Crumley's tree bark, 1981, come into existence, was the first camouflage invented for the bow hunter because you were in a tree. And prior to that, it was just World War II camouflage type deal. This was actually the first camouflage made exclusively for bow hunters, tree bark. Okay, now as you got your insulated underwear, scent lock, your outer shell, the next thing you might want to put on is a vest. Why do you want to put on a vest? The vest will keep the bulk off your arms and still keep your body core warm. There's no, once you get that vest on, you're pretty well capsulated. You got your kidneys warm, that's where a lot of the heat is coming from. Hey, if you put more clothing on your arm, then your arms are going to get bigger. Make sure you beginning bow hunters, when you get a set of clothes, like right now is the time for you to be practicing with your hunting clothes. It's also the time to be practicing with your camping. If you're going to go on an overnight hunt, like Jerry is, right now, take your sleeping bag, your inner sleeping bag, your tent, whatever, if you're going to experience some time in the Rocky Mountains. This is the kind of weather, you take it out in your backyard, put it up, if you get cold, you go in the house. Then you go to Cabela's or Bass Pro. that doesn't work, because if it don't keep you warm right now in March and April weather, that's not going to keep you warm in the fall. And if you test it right now, if you find yourself on a mountaintop or in a lost situation, you have your gear, if you've never tested that, you don't have no faith. So you automatically start going into shock and awe because you go, I got to sleep outside, you know. Well, if you know that what your body comfort's going to be with the bag that you got and the clothes that you got, like if you wanted to right now, you could take this point, because there's people living under the bridge right now as we speak that survived at nighttime. So if you can go out right now and go into these, because this is like fall, nighttime would be, I don't know, you know, dead of winter, that's going to be a different hunt. But if you wanted to see what fall hunting's going to be like while you got some downtime, just go get your gear, and say you got stranded at night, you want to go out and sit under a tree stump all night long and look at the moon in the clothes that you're going to hunt in and see what your comfort level is. And right now is that time. That way you won't be so intimidated when the sun goes down and do stupid things, like panic and get more lost than you are. But build confidence in your clothes, and you'll hunt a lot better. 90% of your heat is generated out, or you lose out through your head. So you always want to have a head, some kind of head cover, a face mask. You know, if you're really, really ugly, you're planning on robbing a bank, I don't know, maybe don't go into the store. But some place won't let you wear these in, like a convenience store, and I can see why. But these are pretty nice. It keeps your head really warm. But the main thing is when you're wearing a hat and you're going to be like Jerry, the last thing you want to do is start your climb with a hat on your head. That's where all the heat's going to be. Your head's going to be soaking wet. And I see so many guys walking around trying to climb up a switchback or any vigorous climb with a hat on their head. And man, it's hot out. Well, take your hat off. You know, start your climbing. Now when you get your climb done, put your hat back on. That'll contain that heat. Well, why sweat up underneath there? You know, you don't need that heat right there. So take your hat off when you're doing your exertion. Like when you're walking through your tree stand, you know, you get out, most fall days, there's no need to wear a hat. All you're doing is generating sweat around your hat wear. So you don't want that stink. You just deleted your shower. So when you go to the tree stand, take your hat off. Now when you get to the tree stand and the sun's going to come up or something, you may put your hat on, that'll conserve the heat. You don't need it to be going out of your head, but you don't need to be going to the tree stand with it on either, because then you get there, man, it's hot, I had to climb up this tree stand, and you're just wringing wet. So don't wear the hat in there, you know, and just think, little things make a big difference. Always use a light going into your tree stand, and these headlights, well, you know how they work, hands-free, and you know, don't worry about spooking a deer with the headlight. If you're going to a tree stand and that headlight spooks the deer, he was spooked anyway, he heard you coming anyhow. But it's more, you can get into that tree stand more stealthy by not falling into it. And if you're walking through logs or walking over them, turn your light on, that way you won't be falling down, getting a wildflower rose bush in your face, or stumbling and tripping and all that, and ruin your hunt before you even get started. If you set your stand up right, them deer ain't supposed to be there anyway. And I'm going to go over some of that tomorrow night, why they're not there, and you should know where they're at. And there's a real good, nice way of finding out where they're at if you do a little biopsy on them. But always use a light. Now, if you get in a real, like public hunting ground, you may want to even go one step farther. Because you don't know who's on these public grounds, and, you know, unfortunately, they're not all in here. This way, if you get mistaken for a deer and you're coming through there and there's some clown up in that tree and he don't see that light flashing and your headlight on, that's your little bit of security, you know, as you're walking out of the woods. If you're walking out of the woods, get away from, if you can, get away from the edge as far as you can so that light's visible. So, you know, because if you're walking along paralleling the woods and you've got Billy Bob from wherever and he's shooting at sound and you're the sound and you ain't got no light on and you don't know that a 52-point buck gets whipped by Billy Bob and he's all supercharged and he thinks the big buck's coming back and he's shooting at movement, and that'll happen. So at least if you got some lights, he's going to see. He should be wake him up to know that that ain't a deer. You know, it's got a light on his head. And another nice thing about this little deal is if you take your pack off and you're wanting to help another hunter get into a stand and you don't want to carry your pack, you can clip this on your pack, or clip it on the fence, and when you get, saves you a lot of time. You've got that flashing out in the middle of an open alfalfa field, you can go right back to it. You don't go, where did I put that at? You know, and you can get right back to it. If you shoot an animal, you can take that off. If you don't have a luminoc, you got your arrow in the ground. Maybe that won't go in the ground. Right there. It will right there. And you can just clip this on there, turn it back on, and you can see that for a long time. If you want to come back and pick up the blood trail later, you got your arrow, you mark your arrow, say you had a shot you weren't quite sure of, and you don't want to be stumbling around in the dark, you pick these up at bicycle shops anywhere, and believe you me, when you come back, you can see that a long ways away, and it'll run all night. But that way it saves you a lot of time to get right back to the blood trail. Okay. Little things to have that can make a big difference, especially on safety. Always use that headlight. It does.